Hello, in this video I wanted to point out some things I think you should consider when you decide where you want to mount your electronics and your circuit boards. So this mainly comes down to keeping access to connectors and ports. So let's start by looking at the Raspberry Pi. On two of the sides of the Raspberry Pi there are a number of connectors. There are power and display connectors on this side, and on the back side there's Ethernet and 4 USB connectors. It'd be a good idea to mount the Raspberry Pi and the hat on a part of your robot that allows you to get access to all of these connectors. There might be a time during debugging where you decide you want to plug a monitor into the Raspberry Pi and a mouse and a keyboard so you can work directly on the Raspberry Pi. And if these aren't accessible, that's going to be really difficult. Also, you're going to be plugging cameras into the USB ports, so those should be accessible. Also remember that cables are going to stick out from the USB connectors, so account for that the cable sticking out the back of your Raspberry Pi. Also on the Raspberry Pi, I'm just going to erase a little bit of this from last video. Also on the Raspberry Pi, right here is the memory card. You want to make sure that you can get access to the memory card. You probably won't have to take it out very often, but it's likely that you will have to reflash the memory card at some point. So it's a good idea to keep access to that. You'll want to be able to get in there, even if it's with a pair of tweezers, to pull the memory card out. So make sure that doesn't get blocked off. The Pi hat that plugs into the top of the Raspberry Pi is where you're going to be plugging all your sensors in. So it should be obvious that you want to keep access to that. I wouldn't plan on putting anything over top of that, at least until you've got your robot fully developed. Let's look at the power distribution board now, and let me point out a few things for you to consider. The battery connector takes quite a bit of force to insert, and it takes up quite a bit of room hanging off the board. You're going to want to put that in a position where you can safely because you're going to be frequently removing the battery. When you're not using the robot and it's powered off, it's not a bad idea just to unplug the battery. So make sure that's located in a spot where it's convenient to do that. The same with the balance connector. If you're not using the robot and it's going to be sitting for any length of time, you should probably unplug the balance connector also. So make sure you can get access to that. Haven't talked about this switch yet. This is our intention with this switch is that it acts as a kill switch. So normally when you're turning the robot on and off, you do that through this soft power button that's located on the user interface board. This is the power button. In the case of some emergency or the robot's going berserk or who knows what, if you need to turn the robot off quickly, you can just hit this kill switch. The kill switch cuts off the power from both the battery and the charging connector, so it isolates all power sources from the robot. So this kill switch needs to be located in a spot that's easy to get to. As an example of the robot that I put together, the kill switch was located in an easy spot on the back of the robot. So plan to mount the kill switch in a spot that you can get to. Talking about the power board again, there are fuses on here to protect the devices that are downstream from the power distribution board. But if we take a look at the bottom of this board, I think I have a picture here. This is the bottom of the power distribution board. There are a few points on here that you would definitely not want to short circuit. So right here, for example, these two pins are the power coming in from the battery. They have the ability to deliver a lot of current. If you were to short circuit these with a screwdriver or the metal on your robot chassis, you would probably melt the metal, could potentially start your battery on fire. So you want to be very careful that these points on the bottom of this circuit board, or any of these solder points on the bottom of the circuit board, don't short circuit on anything. A good idea would be to cover the bottom of this board in some masking tape, for example, or some electrical tape, just to guard against any potential short circuits. And come up with a very robust way of mounting that so that it's mounted securely, but also mounted in a way that there's no possibility of anything short circuiting on the bottom of that circuit board. The same really goes for all the circuit boards. Make sure that they are mounted in a way that they're not going to short circuit to the chassis. Mind you, if a short circuit on one of these devices would be as catastrophic because they are all protected by fuses. The user interface board, you're going to want to mount that, of course, in a place where you can get to the screen and the buttons pretty easily. I think that's good for the mounting considerations. We'll leave the rest up to you.